Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-hosts Ron Richards and Win Twit Dow, and we got some news for you tonight. When are we going to get the official release of Android 13? We thought it might be in August, but it's looking like it's probably going to be September. Samsung has a new repair mode that, honestly, Google should probably adopt for Android at some point in the near future. We hope so anyways. Win's new crush is the Asus Zenfone 9. Also, Discord is switching to React Native, and both Win and Ron have very competing thoughts on that. We have a new app tips segment by a favorite friend of the show, and a whole lot of feedback coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Wealthfront. Get a bonus $50 when you start investing with Wealthfront. So sign up today. Just visit wealthfront.com/twit. And by Bitwarden. Get the password manager that offers a robust and cost-effective solution that can drastically increase your chances of staying safe online. Get started with a free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user at bitwarden.com/twit. Hello and welcome to All About Android. This is episode 589, recorded on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Yes, it's already August. It's really weird. I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Ron Richards.
I'm with Twit now.
Apparently, Ron is exhausted by the thought of August. Yeah,
I'm just completely exhausted by the thought of August. No, I was saying in the pre-show, I have a cold, which is a thing you can still get. It is not COVID, but it is just a regular old cold. So I sound a little more throaty than usual, and it's August. Nothing worse than being sick in it's 95 degrees here in New York.
Summer cold's the worst.
Yeah.
Worst.
Yep.
Summer colds, you just kind of, anytime I have a summer cold, I always feel like I'm missing out on something. I'm like, really? Like, at least in the winter, I don't want to go outside. So if I have a cold and I need to just rest, like being in bed sounds great in the winter, but in the summer, it doesn't sound so great.
Yep.
But you're right. Colds, they still happen. Non-COVID colds. All of the above. We're just not used to getting those kinds of sicknesses anymore. We're so out of habit, out of practice.
Super out of habit. And then of course, I woke up at 4 a.m. the night it hit, and I could feel the congestion and the sore throat going. And then I had nightmares that I was positive with COVID, and having nightmares about now the kids can't go to camp and my wife can't do this and all this sort of stuff. So I woke up at 6 and tested, and it was negative. And I was like, oh, okay, it's just a regular cold. It's not I have no fever, I have no other kind of things, but it's amazing what it's done to our psyche. I'm not so much worried about getting sick, worried about the ramifications of it being the sick thing. Yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Totally. Kind of the psychological impact, the psychological dominoes that fall the second you think you might actually have it. Well, thankfully you don't. I'm very happy to know that you don't, Ron.
Yeah.
We have some Android news to talk about that has nothing to do with COVID. I don't think a single one of our stories has anything to do with COVID. So I'm happy we got that out of the way. Unlike getting COVID, actually, it was very quick, our talk about COVID, and now it's done. So why don't we jump in and start talking about some Android news right now, Burke? Push that button.
Well, in the Android news, we've got a super flaky release date for Android 13. It's likely to release soon.
See, here's the thing about the Android news bumper is that it used to be a really funny kind of thing that was kind of tied to the show, and then
wait, hold on. I'll have you know that it's related directly to the intro story, and I've decided to change the rules of anywhere in the news section now, because Android 13 has come up at least 7 times in the
for sure.
Every.
But the point I'm making, I'm fine with you choosing anything from the news thing, but it used to be something kind of funny or witty or a play on words, and now it's just literally you saying the news.
You should try writing it sometime, Ron. That's all I gotta say.
Oh man,
Burke needs a writer.
Yeah. All right. Well, gosh. Anyway, so as Burke mentioned,
Burke stole your
Android-
lead. That's what happened, Ron. Burke
yeah,
stole
that's
your
what
lead.
happens. That's exactly. It's like, yeah. So we're talking about Android 13 coming out in September. There it is. A lot of speculation around when Android 13 comes out. I thought maybe it'd be August, maybe October. We talked about it a couple weeks ago as we went back to how far did I go? Android 7 with the release dates, to figure out the release dates. Well, Google published they published the Android 13 security release notes, and within that it says Android 13 as released on AOSP will have a default security patch level of 2022-09-01. So while it's not a concrete admission of a September launch, it sounds likely that either and based on this, it could be like launch in August with a security patch update of September 1st, or launch after that security patch update of September 1st, 2022. But either way, we're inching closer. So,
and Win, maybe you know the answer to this. Does AOSP launch? I'm trying to remember. Does it launch later than it's usually timed?
Oh,
it's
good
It's like
point.
Google says, Android 13 is out. It's rolling out to these pixels and these select few phones, and AOSP is available. Like that usually happens at the same time, right?
I would think so, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know the exact answer. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I didn't have an Android dev to answer that. No, I thought it was the same time, but now that you've asked me that, I'm not sure.
As an
I
Android
would-
developer, is it important for you or for a developer to actually know? Like when they say Android 13 is out, AOSP, you go get it right now. Is that particular fact important to a developer?
Not so much. It kind of depends on, I guess, how much you're trying to support directly, maybe a new feature in 13, or whether there's something that's breaking
Got
in
it.
13 for you. So I think it always depends. They're gonna, when they bury me, I want them to put "it depends" on my tombstone, because that's like my engineering answer to everything. Is it depends?
That's your waffle answer.
What, my waffle answer? Waffle's
Yeah.
delicious. What's wrong? Oh, waffle.
No.
Like, I'm waffling. I'm sorry.
That's like it could be. It could also not be. No, I do that all the time too.
Yeah. That's my
Because
waffle
it's
answer.
hard to answer in absolute. So I have a waffle answer as well.
Yeah, it depends. That's a great question, though, whether there's ever any discrepancy between AOSP and the actual release date. So I might try to look that up and see, but I would suspect that it would be similar. But
I would
again,
think so too.
yeah, that's a good question.
So, okay, September, not earlier than we thought. And also, I mean, part of the speculation around an earlier release also kind of ties into the fact that the beta for Android 13 started earlier than it had in the past as well. So it was kind of like, oh, well, if they're starting earlier, does that mean they're going to release it earlier, or does that just mean they're taking more time? And apparently, at least according to this little nugget of information, they're just going to take that time. Why rush a good thing, right? Google needs to take its time for these things.
listen, it's got to be right. It's got to be the right temperature. It's got to be the right consistency. It's just got to be right. It's just got to be ready. That's all.
You gotta
can't
let
be
that rest
undercooked.
so all the
when the
not let
little-
all the juices come back in.
Yeah, you have
right.
to wait. You have to wait. If you've installed the beta or the developer preview of Android 13, you have to wait until the little thing pops out of your phone to tell you that it's ready. Like the little, so.
And you might be wise to throw Android 13 onto a cutting board and then cover it with a sheet of tinfoil for
Yes.
about
Good idea.
5 minutes so that it retains
Yes.
its juices. And then cut it, because you don't want Android 13 to release too many juices too soon. Then you've got a dry Android 13, and who wants that?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Good. I'm happy we got to the bottom of this really important news. But Win, you've got the next one, and I totally forgot. We were going to talk about this last week. This is like a big deal, and somehow it escaped me. So I'm happy that we are actually talking about it now.
No, this is really fun. So,
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Breaking news.
It's late breaking news.
late. It is late. Comma.
Late
Is
stage.
it, no, wait, late, no comma, breaking news, not late breaking news, late breaking news. Like, is that the whole laser eye thing? Laser eye surgery versus laser eye surgery? Pew, pew. Anyway. So
I haven't heard that one before, but yeah, that's two different things.
So what's today? Today's the 2nd. So I believe on August 9th, no, sorry, not August. I'm already mixed up already. So on July 19th, we reported on the kind of finalization of the transition of Google Play Store from the app permission section to a brand new data safety section, which was basically a devs fill in your own adventure kind of section where devs try to explain what they would be needing and using certain permissions for, along with some additional information that really isn't covered by app permissions, like whether users get like deletion opportunities for their data and things like that. But really the point was like most people were kind of upset because the data safety section was being added and shown at the time in Google Play in lieu of the previous app permission section, which rather than being volunteered information was literally Google Play Store scanning the app to list out declared permissions. Well, apparently we all complained so much that 2 days later after we talked about it on July 21st, the Android developers Twitter account posted saying that, quote, privacy and transparency are core values in the Android community. We heard your feedback that you find the app permissions section in Google Play useful, and we've decided to reinstate it. The app permissions section will be back shortly. And yeah, we will continue to take in feedback and work closely with the developer community to prioritize data privacy and transparency for users. And yeah, so hey, sometimes complaining works. And I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of not just developers, but the kind of the broader Android faithful, Android enthusiasts saying, oh, well, I mean, we actually like app permissions. We like this information. And there's not, and kind of as discussed a lot, I think we were reading, like we were talking about around Amadio's article, that there's no guarantee that a user can't lie their face off to you. And the enforcement and the punishments didn't seem that severe or that rigorous. So what the heck? So what do y'all think? Complaining works? I mean, obviously people will be happy to see it back, but I don't know. What lessons should we take from this?
I feel like this is the best of both worlds, right? We end up getting the context that a developer chooses to share, which I'm just like I'm hitting the Play Store right now, just pulled up a random app just to kind of see what's there right now. And of course, the data safety section is still there. I wish I was sharing my screen with you. You can't see it, but take my word for it. The data safety section is there. The app permission section is not yet. So they obviously haven't reinstated that. But I'm looking through the data safety section and kind of pulling down, there's like location, approximate location. Then when I pull that down, it says data collected and for what purpose? Approximate location, analytics, advertising, marketing, personalization. Some of the stuff that I imagine, or I'm assuming anyways, that the developer has a part in filling out. And that's really great context. And so that I'm happy that they're keeping that. And I think that's super valuable in and of itself, but also having the automated, this is, I am Google and I am looking into the app and this is what I am finding is also very helpful to know, like, I think honestly, having both pieces in play would keep a developer even more honest as far as that's concerned, because one thing does exist to check the other. It's kind of a checks and balances system. So I'm really happy. And I think it's really great that they did such a fast about face. I have to imagine they heard about it on this show and they were like, you know what?
Well, clearly
they're right.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. Clearly they got inundated with emails and tweets and things like that about our coverage of it. No, I mean, but it's interesting. But it is nice to see that. I mean, just those 4 words in that tweet alone, we heard your feedback, right? Like like they're listening and they're making adjustments based on what the community is telling them. That's pretty great. So kudos to them. So
yeah, kudos to them. And again, that quick kind of response, not, dragging it out for weeks and weeks. We haven't seen the update. I'm sure, at some point, hopefully in the near future, we'll see that update. And we can all rejoice that they held themselves to the standard that they tweeted out. So
Absolutely.
But obviously this is an example of people being upset about something, making their voices heard, whether they did it in an official way or they just went on Twitter and they're like, I don't like how Google's doing this, which I think a lot of people actually do. But Google is monitoring that too. So kudos to Google for actually listening, as they said. Yeah, that's pretty great. When your phone needs to be repaired, you drop your phone, the display is broken, or something's wrong with your phone, and then the manufacturer says, well, send it in to us and we will repair it, or we will take a look and blah, blah, blah. I know that we've heard from a lot of people who have written in, who have called in to say, in just different stories and different examples, that's kind of like a nervous feeling that some people have, sending their device that has literally their pocket computer that has a lifetime of data that they own, sending that off to someone they don't know, who they are expected to trust because it's an organization, Samsung or Google or whatever. But we've also talked about situations where things like that happens. Wasn't it Google? And I think in the Pixel department where there was that big story where someone sent in their phone and then something happened with the data. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this was not very long ago. This was probably in the last 6 months. And so there's a nervousness around, like, here's my phone with everything that's important to me, and I'm going to send it in just to get this repair done. Well, Samsung is making a change apparently to the OS to add something called a repair mode. And so
this is cool. This is very cool.
This is a really great idea. And, it's one of those things that, I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen sooner. Accessible in the settings menu. Right now, it's only limited to Galaxy S21 devices, and they're testing it in Korea. So this is not a wide release. I think this is like a sign of things to come as far as we can tell, but it was first spotted by Sam Mobile and then announced only in a Korean Samsung press release. So it was even translated, right, for the US publications that wrote about it. But it's a feature found in the settings menu that you put it into repair mode. It locks the phone data down. So all it offers once that mode has been activated is the default installed apps. Access to the default installed apps is a really basic access. And then, all the data is siphoned off, is blocked off, so they can't actually get to any of the data. So that hopefully on the user who's sending in the device to them, that alleviates their concerns about, here's all my data, please don't do anything with it, sort of thing. And that unlock can only be done by authentication by the user once that phone comes back, or really at any time. But it's locked behind the authentication. And Samsung says this will get a wider rollout at some point, but I think this is a really great idea. I would love to see this as a feature that is just baked into Android.
I was just gonna say, Google, are you listening? Steal this feature for the operating system. Like this is the kind of thing that should be. And honestly, I wonder why it's taken us 10 years to get to this point. Right? Like, this is genius.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I like it. What do you think, Wynn?
Gimme. It makes so much sense to have this kind of mode where data is protective, and we are in a era where privacy and security are super important. So stick that on all the phones. It reminds me, who was it? I'm blanking. It reminds me of that situation where I think I had a friend write an app where, sometimes you give your phone to like a relative or something to show pictures, and they just swipe through all the pictures.
They start swiping.
And then just keep swiping. I had a friend, and I don't remember who it was, that wrote an app where you could just pick a subset of pictures, and that's all your relative or your friend or whoever, your nosy friend or whoever, could swipe through. And I mean, I know it's a bit different, but it just kind of makes sense, right? Just being able to and actually the new photo picker for Android and kind of other things make the sense where I give you permission, but I don't give you all the permissions.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not
right,
carte blanche. So I think this just goes. It just kind of goes with like the vibe and the efforts of the Android team now. So yeah, I want it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Gimme.
I agree. Hopefully Google will just rope this in, and everybody can have a piece.
It's very smart. Good job, Samsung. I'll give them credit for it. So
Bert confirmed in Discord, it was a Pixel phone. It was a third-party repair. I thought it was Google repair, but maybe it was third-party. But anyways, I mean, and the reality is sometimes when you send your... Is that what Google said?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that was how that resolved.
Yeah, it was the contractor.
It wasn't us.
Yeah.
It was a contractor. Okay, that's right. I vaguely remember that. I mean, the reality is when you're sending your phone for some piece of hardware, that's broken or not working or whatever, which is usually what you're sending your phone away to get repaired, it's probably not going to be the software. But sometimes they need access to the software to do things with the hardware or to confirm that whatever they did works. And so being able to do this, still have access to the pieces of the software that they actually need in order to complete the hardware fix, is really important. So very nice. Bravo, Samsung.
Yeah. Bravo indeed.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Cool. All right. So take a break and thank our first sponsor of this episode, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Wealthfront. And Wealthfront is a financial services company founded in 2008 with the goal to make building long-term wealth delightfully easy. And they do that. And if you've seen the market lately, you probably didn't like what you saw. But seeing is a matter of perspective. Wealthfront is an investing app with a different vision, one focused on long-term wealth, designed to weather any market condition, even the one we're in now. With Wealthfront, you'll get a pre-built, diversified portfolio that spreads your investing eggs across more baskets. It's the time-tested way to build long-term wealth and weather whatever volatility is happening in the market. The trick to wealth isn't timing, it's time, because historically, the market has always rebounded. By automating your investments, it's easier to invest regularly, regardless of the ups and downs of volatility. So if you want to invest for the long term while the market is basically having a clearance sale, do not wait. The time is now. Wealthfront makes it super easy to start investing. Answer a few questions about your risk level and future plans, and you'll get a personalized portfolio built for the long term. That's really it. And you'll get a $50 bonus if you sign up today. Wealthfront was voted the best overall robo-advisor by Investopedia and is already helping nearly 500,000 people build their wealth with over $27 billion in managed assets. So get a bonus $50 when you start investing with Wealthfront. Sign up today. Just visit wealthfront.com/twit. That's wealthfront.com/twit. This bit of investing wisdom is a paid endorsement from Wealthfront. And thank you, Wealthfront, for making it delightfully easy. You're the best, Wealthfront. Cool.
Thank you, Wealthfront.
Yeah. So let's do some hardware.
Let's do it. I think we've just discovered Wynn's new favorite phone. That's what I
is. I mean,
understand
in
it
general,
is.
so I really love doing this show because I feel like as a developer, I tend to live in developer world, which has, its own set of concerns. And actually, I've spoken not all Android devs are necessarily big Android device geeks, and that's totally fine. But I blame it on my husband. And so I've really been geeking out on these Asus, not Asus, Asus phones. So I geeked out about the ROG phone previously, with its interesting hardware features like the air triggers, which uses either, optical or sonic sensors to kind of emulate like triggers on a control pad. Well, it turns out that the up and coming Asus Zenfone 9 is going to have a 6-axis gimbal on the main camera unit. So I really like the Zenfone 9. I did not know about it until this week, and it's cool for a lot of us.
I feel like you went from 0 to 60 on this phone very quickly.
I want it. So for one thing, I think I mentioned a long time ago on the show that when I was using my Pixel 6, was it my Pixel 6 or my Nexus 6? My Nexus 6 that I once pulled my thumb because phones are just getting ridiculously big. So it's nice to see a compact phone. So the Zenfone 9 is actually going to be packing a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 between 8 and 16 gigabytes of RAM in a 5.9 inch screen. And it's got this amazing 50 megapixel f1.9 dual camera that has hybrid OIS and EIS stabilization and this gimbal. And it moves the entire camera unit. And I just think that's kind of amazing that Asus is pushing, kind of like these interesting hardware features. Because we've been talking about interesting phone features, and this is going to be a mid-range phone. I think I saw somewhere, I didn't write down the source, that is about $600 maybe. And in fact, MKBHD did a review on it yesterday, and he really likes it. But yeah, there's a lot of really great features packed into this 5.9 inch phone. And I think actually, while I'm waiting for the Pixel 7, I think I'm going to pick this up. And you can actually see the gimbal moving slightly. Like if you actually go to the official Zenfone 9 launch page, they have a little render of it. It's not for realsies, but you can see. And kind of going through into the details of it, they actually had to rethink how the camera unit connects to the processor. And it kind of reminds me of like the whole reason we have like shock mounts and stuff like that with the mic. They had to like change like the way that the cable connects the processor with the sensor to make it shorter, and it's actually arranged in an S shape, presumably to kind of absorb some of that shock. And I mean, we're in an age where everyone takes dozens of sometimes really beautiful video and pictures with their cameras, and people are making movies on cameras, but they're still handheld devices and they're still shaky, and low light can be a problem. So with this kind of stabilization, you could have lower shutter speeds, which means not only kind of more stable video, but also like more low light capabilities. So I just think this is freaking cool. And also just the specs are great. I mean, like a great processor, tons of RAM. And I mean, apparently the battery life is good. It doesn't charge very fast. I believe it has like 30-watt charging, but I mean, I haven't had a mid-range phone for a bit, and I'm not going to buy another Pixel till the 7 comes out. So I am legit. Like I told our chat, like, I'm going to get this phone and I'm going to use it. I mean, as much as I've been like having a foldable, maybe I should go in the opposite direction and try out a nice mid-range phone, which to be fair is packing all this fun stuff. But yeah I don't know.
You can call it a mid-range phone, but I mean the processor, the memory, the camera system sounds like, I mean that whole gimbal thing, like I think all across the board it might have a mid-range price, but it's actually pretty reasonable. This is definitely on the upper tier as far as that's concerned. Yeah, looks interesting. I love that they've kind of taken a different approach with the camera stabilization, and making the entire camera system move in that stabilization, not just the lens, which is what we're used to seeing. And of course the sample that they show of the guy running and everything looks incredible, which they usually do when they put those those examples on their press sites. But I bet this has a good chance of actually living up to that hype if it's got that kind of system attached to the camera system. That's pretty awesome. It's really neat.
Yeah. So I mean, if I get it, I'll definitely let y'all know and see if I regret moving away from my Z Fold 3 or not. So I don't know. I guess like I feel like I always love the camera stuff. Any kind of weird or interesting or kind of out there camera on a phone, I adore. And when I saw the title, I was like, give me this article, give me this one, because I just love it. I just, especially since phone cameras, mobile cameras are just so important and so ubiquitous and kind of changing how we do so many things for better, for worse. Heck yeah, put a gimbal in it. Let's see.
Well, that's what I find interesting about this is because we're always talking about like we're looking for innovation, and like the number of lenses on the back of the phone is the latest in innovation, and Jason, over how many years have we as we've grown in megapixels and sensor sizes and all this sort of stuff, but like this is a cool innovation that like takes what we've got and adds a layer to it, right? Which is really I keep saying innovation and innovative, but it's clever. I give them credit. That's great. So
it doesn't seem to add a whole lot of extra kind of depth and thickness to the device for the people who really care about that. Not to mention, this device has a headphone jack. Just saying.
Hey,
if you are a headphone jack purist, here you go. Got a Courage port. And the Asus Zenfone 9.
The Asus Courage port.
Asus. What is it again?
It's Asus.
Yeah. You know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to do like a virtual sticky note at the top of every doc, and every week before we start the show, we'll rehearse the pronunciation of that. Because it will always
Republic
flip-flop
of Gamers.
ROG.
Yes.
It's not ROG, it's ROG.
ROG. No, it'll always be ROG. I'm sorry, you don't put something in market that says ROG and not say that it's ROG. Like, I'm sorry. Like you don't get to control that. You don't get to control that. So yeah.
I think ROG sounds kind of cool too.
It
does.
ROG.
Catchy.
Roll with the ROG.
Metal. Sounds metal.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Yep.
It kind of sounds like the Inception sound, right? That's in all the movies now. Like,
Christopher Nolan films, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not that.
Sort of like that, but with a vocoder, or I don't know. All right, in other hardware news, the Pixel 6a, Florence Ion last week on the show gave it a review, and what do you know, a week later, people are freaking out about the fingerprint sensor because that's what happens with Pixel phones, especially the in-display fingerprint sensors. If you remember, the 6 and the 6 Pro had their issues with the fingerprint sensor, and people still complaining about it being slow. I can't remember if this particular issue was a Pixel issue or if it was a different device before it, but I know we've heard about this before, where the fingerprint sensor on a very select few Pixel 6a's, but nonetheless, probably 6 or 8 reports of this, can be unlocked with any fingerprint. Like you might have, certain fingers that you've trained on the device, and then you can put any fingerprint on it that isn't one of those fingers, and it'll still unlock the device. Not happening with everybody. Plenty of people are replying to this saying, I don't know, I have a 6A and it works just fine for me. It's got to be some sort of an isolated hardware issue on a very small, series of devices, but it is happening to more than one person. So something to consider, something to know, and something to check for. I suppose that's the point, is if you get yourself a 6A, learn your fingerprint and then try another fingerprint on it. And if it's doing this thing, you probably want to, call the place that you bought it from, or call Google, or I guess you can't call Google, but send them a support ticket or whatever you got to do and see what you can do. It's probably not going to happen to you, but there you go. All right. That's that. I don't have anything else to say, and obviously you don't either. So Ron, go on the next story.
What more is there to say about it? So all right. So moving on, we were praising Samsung earlier in the show, right, for the repair mode, and I'm going to praise Samsung again here because they're gearing up for their next big hardware event, which is going to be Wednesday, August 10th, Unpacked 2022, and nothing like one of these accidental publish leaks that happen. Samsung accidentally published a list to Samsung's insurance website in the UK, and the list detailed all of the color combinations available for the upcoming Z Flip 4. And this confirmed that the wide number of color options that are coming for the phone. Primary color variants include blue, Bora purple, graphite, pink gold, and then thanks to the bespoke version, the total number of color combinations for this phone rises to 70. And that includes the different color options for the frame for the frame of the phone.
Nice.
So you want to talk about how do you innovate on the flip phone in a way that isn't spec based or anything. With the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4, they are catering to people who like the fashion element of the flip phone, of the smaller phone, and by giving these color combinations and color options, you're multiplexing completely to the point where you could the odds of you having a phone that's unlike anyone else around you are so high because you could have 70 color combinations like that. Like, bravo, Samsung, that's great. So I'm happy with it.
Of course, you know what this reminds me of is the Moto Maker. And I was like, okay, so, and I do believe that was a typo. I apologize in the notes. It's actually 71. So add one more color combination.
Sorry.
So,
oh no,
yeah, we were one off. But I was like, how many color combinations could you have with the Moto phones, the Moto X, that could do the Moto Maker? Apparently, that was 126. So Motorola is still winning on the total number of color combinations. Because if you remember with the Motorola, it was the back plate, it was the camera housing, it was there were a few different things, and it's the same with the Z Flip, but I think that's super neat. Like, people love customizing their stuff, and if they've created a system where it doesn't break the bank to be able to offer these combinations, great. People are going to love that.
I had completely forgotten about the Moto Maker until you said that, but I made my Motorola X, and it was like my favorite phone for the longest time because it was just so exciting. I still have that phone somewhere too. Yeah, it was yours. And imagine just like, I really do like this. I know it's not like the most technologically like advanced innovation or the most original idea, but heck yeah, user choice and user aesthetics. I love it. I'm into it. Oh, so good.
Especially with a device like when I think of the Z Flip, and I think Samsung would agree, it's a cool kind of forward-looking device, but it's also kind of a style device. Like there's something very kind of like I don't know. not flashy. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but it's got kind of a style, like a fashion
It's got some
quality
pizzazz.
to it.
Yeah,
The flair
flair.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. And so I think this is the right trick applied to the right device. Like if you did that to a Galaxy S whatever millionth device, sure, some people would do it, but the components wouldn't work with that the way it works here. Here it makes a lot of sense. And I think I think the buyers of this particular phone will be all about customization.
It makes so much sense because we were talking last week. Was it that flips or the Flip 3 was it 70% of all foldables shipped or 70% of Samsung foldables shipped? So it just makes either way impressive, right? It was like a vast majority of either it's just Samsungs or all foldables. So it makes so much sense to take such a crowd pleasing experience like this and then stick it on an up and coming device that they're trying to make a market for. And I'm into it. Go Samsung. And what I asked me 5 years ago, I'm sorry, I'm saying it. Go Samsung. Samsung crew.
Look at that.
Sorry, me 5 years ago. But it just makes a lot of sense.
But you have a Samsung phone, so you've already
now, and I like it. I've already betrayed.
You've already made
me
that
5 years ago.
made that decision with yourself.
I've already made that deal with. I won't say devil, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right. Okay, so let's take a break, and then we've got some app news, and then after the app news, we've got a special section that's probably going to be like a news section that you can tune in, that you can stay tuned for. Don't touch that dial.
That's Jason. That's what we call in the business a tease, everybody.
Yeah. So you don't want to go anywhere. All right. I've locked you in. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Bitwarden. Bitwarden is the only open source cross-platform password manager that can be used at home, it can be used at work, or on the go. It's trusted by millions. Bitwarden's awesome. You can actually securely store credentials across personal and business worlds. Every Bitwarden account begins with the creation of a personal vault. And actually, Bitwarden has big news. After launching the username generator last month, they're integrating with 3 popular email forwarding services that also happen to be open source: Simple Login, Anon Addy, and Firefox Relay. Now, adding another layer of security and privacy is easier than ever. When using Bitwarden to generate a new username, the option to create an email alias is now presented with a sub-selection for choosing your preferred service. You just enter the API key for your individual account with the chosen service, select the desired options, and then once that's generated, a new alias is instantly registered to your account. And using these unique usernames, email addresses, and passwords for every account, that's a super powerful method for increasing internet security and privacy. It adds protection to logins in the face of data breaches, in the face of leaks that we're always hearing about. This feature is going to be available on the Web Vault, desktop app, and browser extensions. With mobile, planned for a future release. That'll be coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. Bitwarden is a must-need for your business. It's fully customizable. It adapts to your business needs. You can use Bitwarden Send, which is one feature. It's a fully encrypted method to transmit sensitive information, whether that be text or it could be files, whatever you have. You can generate unique and secure passwords for every site with enterprise-grade security that's GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, and SOC 2 compliant. How about that? They have end-to-end encrypted vault that you have access to. That helps mitigate phishing attacks. And yes, if you got an organization, you've got teams, you're going to want their team's organization option. It's a $3 a month per user, and you can share private data securely with your coworkers. You can do that across departments or the entire company. Enterprises can actually use Bitwarden's enterprise organization plan. That's just $5 a month per user. And then if you're just an individual user, you can use their basic free account forever for an unlimited number of passwords, or upgrade anytime to their premium account for less than $1 a month. So see, it's really easy to get on the Bitwarden train. They also have the family organization option. This gives up to 6 users premium features. That costs only $3.33 a month. Bitwarden has so many useful features, so many different types of accounts that match exactly what you need it for. At Twit, we are fans of password managers. I love having a password manager. It keeps me safe online. Bitwarden is the only open source cross-platform password manager that can be used at home, on the go, or at work. It's trusted by millions of individuals, millions of teams, organizations, you name it, worldwide. Get started with a free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user. All you got to do is go to bitwarden.com/twit, BITWARDEN, bitwarden.com/twit to check it out for yourself. Guarantee you're going to be happy that you did. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And more importantly, it's going to keep you more secure. And we thank Bitwarden for their support of All About Android. All right, it's time to jump into some apps. Let's do it. All right. Oh, yeah. Keeping safe with the apps that you're getting on the Play Store. Not only safe, but keeping not annoyed, which in the case of some of these changes that I'm going to talk about will help you not be quite so annoyed. But Google announced some big policy changes for the Play Store last week, and you're definitely going to see some of the impacts of this. So listen up. Basically, what the goal is to cut down on bad behavior, to cut down on unstoppable ads, which I have totally experienced, and those are frustrating as all get out. Apps are no longer going to be allowed to pop up full screen ads in the middle of action. So, in other words, in unexpected times. And if you've ever been playing a game that is, ad supported, some developers do a really great job, right? Like they actually put thought into, when is the right time for an ad to appear. Maybe you choose for an ad to appear because you're going to get, you choose to like 2x the result at the end of this round, and you watch an ad and that 2x is your hearts or whatever the case may be. That's still going to be allowed. What will not be allowed is if you're in the middle of active gameplay and then suddenly a full screen ad comes on and interrupts your gameplay, and then it goes away finally, and then you continue playing. Or if an ad appears when you first launch the app, that sort of thing. Or maybe you're scrolling through content, and then suddenly you scrolled far enough, and it's like, here, have an ad. Those kinds of things are not going to be allowed anymore. This will not apply to ads that appear during like a streaming show. Like if you're streaming a show on a video streaming network or whatever, that won't apply to that. But I mean, this right here, I feel like is a big deal because I've totally experienced this, probably more so on my kids' tablets, because they end up downloading the apps that might do some of this stuff. And then I'm sitting with them and watching them play and something like that happens. And it always amazes me when it does, because they're young, they're kids. They don't really know any better. So when it happens, they're just like, oh yeah, this is annoying, whatever.
They just accept it, right?
I just play the game.
Yeah.
They just accept it. And I'm like, no, this is not okay. This is horrible. So that's how I feel about it. But what do y'all think?
Same. Go ahead, Ron.
Go in.
Go for it.
No, I'm just saying, like, I am not as patient as your girls, and I run into those games as well, and I just delete them. If you stop me while I'm in the middle of doing a thing and you're like messing up my score or messing up my strats, you're out. So I find, like, although I kind of find that as a nice natural selection in the Play Store, it's also just frustrating and not. I mean, I don't just even practically. Do people actually make money from that kind of intrusive ads? I mean, I guess they do.
They must.
They do it. They must, but it doesn't seem like a long-term strategy. But yeah, I'm all for this because I have been that person that really liked the concept of an app or really liked what an app promised to provide, and then just deleted and said, nope, you out because they did this. So I'm all for it. I have no patience anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to look for the in-app purchase to play without ads or to do something without ads, and honestly, I don't even get that far enough. And admittedly, I'm not the user. Ever since I lost my commute, my gaming time has gone dramatically downhill, right? Because I have I have no time for idle hands, unfortunately, now because I'm home all the time and yeah, that sort of thing. But in a world where I was on the subway or on BARD or whatever, like you would sample get Jason. We used to do all the time. We would recommend games and do stuff like that, right? And the few games that I have partaken in, I have noticed the prevalence of full screen ads increased to the point where like there was I downloaded one game that was like one of those like water pipe connector games, you know, that I played years ago, and I was like, oh, I like that game. Let me do that, you know, when I'm in the bathroom, whatever it is. And I did like one level and get hit with a full screen ad. And I'm like, all right, whatever. They got to make money. This is what we talk about, right? You know, support your devs. And then I do another level, full screen ad. And I was like, nope, not doing this. And I just uninstalled it. You know, like it definitely has eroded from what I remember. So
yeah. Oh, so frustrating. And to touch back on what you were saying, Win, as far as like, you know, do they actually make money when they do that sort of thing? I tend to think about of the apps, like the ones that I have in my mind that I've witnessed doing this aren't necessarily high quality apps to begin with, or high quality games to begin with. You know what I mean? There are some times where I see them playing games and I'm like, this game only exists because they do that crap. And because they just throw it and throw it and throw it. And they probably know, I'm guessing, the developers of that particular style of app and game know that a lot of their users are probably children who don't know any better, and they end up downloading it and they end up just watching it. So they're basically making free money off the fact that the kids just don't know any better. And it's just kind of scummy when I see that. I could be totally making a guess that's off base, but that's the hunch I get when I see the quality of the game that they're playing. I'm like, this isn't even like a good game. Like, it really feels thrown together. And then there's like an ad playing every 5 seconds, interrupting gameplay. Like, that is made purely to be a way to shovel as many ads as possible before it gets uninstalled. So they must be making money.
Pro tip from Cousin of Ja in Discord, and I've done this too. If you play in airplane mode, a lot of times because the ad won't load, it'll just skip it. And I've done that before too. So that is totally a strat if you really want to play that possibly scummy game.
Yeah, and personally, if I'm playing a scummy game and it's throwing ads at me left, right, and center, I have no qualms throwing on that airplane mode. And it's
right, but
like,
but then you're disconnected. I can't. I only use airplane mode on the plane. I can't. Yeah, unfortunately. So,
There are other things that Google rolled out. Managing and canceling subscriptions must be directly accessible within the app, so that's a good addition. Prohibits health misinformation through apps and experiences. Clamps down further on apps that are impersonating other apps. I guess this was a rule that existed before, but there were a lot of loopholes and everything, and Google's attempting to kind of seal up those loopholes so that any impersonation of another app just isn't allowed, including kind of like the visual presentation of the thumbnail or the icon that you see in the Play Store, that sort of stuff, and a few others as well. But all of this is going to go into effect on September. Yeah, that's the kind of the image that was used to kind of showcase some of the offenders. But all of this goes into effect on September 30th. So, you know, hopefully that will make the app experience just a little bit more tolerable.
I actually got caught by one of those impersonator apps recently. I was so embarrassed. I think it was like a Google Translate clone, and I was on my phone and I was like setting it up, and I was like, I really wanted Google Translate because I use it a lot for like my Japanese class, and I didn't even look. I was just like, yeah, Google Translate, and I opened it and I was like, why does it look like there are ads everywhere? And I was like, oh no, I've been duped. No, they're gonna take my Android dev credits. I felt very embarrassed.
Feels horrible. Feels horrible to know you were duped. I've been there before, for sure.
It was sad.
I'm sorry about that. Well, if you're an Amazon customer, you might be feeling duped right now because Amazon announced that it's shutting down its. There it is. Thank you, everybody. So it's too long.
Wow,
too long for that work. Amazon announced that it's shutting down its Drive cloud storage service at the end of 2023. And they really made sure in the messaging to emphasize that Amazon Photos is not going away when that happens. So, which I find really funny. But as of January 31st, 2023, no new uploads to Drive will be allowed. And on December 31st, 2023, you'll no longer be able to view or download old content. So if you've got stuff on Amazon Drive, go get it before December 31st, 2023. hypothetically, you have a year and 4 months to get all your stuff down, but you've got enough, there's enough lead time here to move all your stuff. But if you're a user of Amazon Drive, you remember that it's been around since 2011 when it was called Amazon Cloud Drive. And I do know Amazon customers who use it and liked it. And I also find it fascinating that the company that has now brought us Amazon Web Services and cloud services for the internet across the world is shutting down one of their cloud services. So I would love to know why, because like I would think with the cost of storage these days, which is next to nothing, and given the infrastructure Amazon has developed for their own needs and then sold to the rest of the internet, why shut this down?
I mean, maybe just there hardly anyone is using it. I mean, I honestly forgot that it even existed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
so it says that they're no longer supporting it to fully focus on efforts on photos and video storage with Amazon Photos. So, yeah.
Which I mean is kind of a hidden or easy to forget about perk if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber. I believe it's tied to Prime. You have essentially unlimited storage for your photos with Amazon's cloud, whereas Google, you have to pay for all of that extra storage. Amazon hasn't done that; it's still unlimited. So that's kind of a little side thing to remember. But Amazon Drive, I forgot you even existed, but apparently so did a lot of other people because you're going away.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that is weird. You're right. It is kind of weird that Amazon, the cloud company,
right,
is killing a cloud product like that. And even if it wasn't used that much, I guess it's easy for me to say, but I would imagine it would be just as easy to like keep it going for the people that do. But isn't that always the case? That's what we always assume, anyways. All right, when you get to tell us a little bit about Discord.
Yeah, this was a really interesting story. And to be perfectly frank, as an Android developer, I had a bit of a gut reaction to this story. So, but I think it's a really good topic for discussion and a good thing to kind of maybe talk a little bit more about how development teams and process and organization work. So the actual story is that Discord on August 1st, yesterday, Monday, August 1st, announced that it is actually going to rehaul its Android app and switch to using React Native to implement its Android app. It's already been using React Native, which is basically a web and iOS, web and cross-platform platform for creating apps. It's been using React Native since 2015 for its iOS app, but it has been writing presumably native Android since then. But no longer. It is going to be switching over its Android app to also use React Native. And on the official announcement on Discord's site, they basically mentioned two big, advantages of doing this. The first is feature parity, and they explain that what has happened on Discord is that generally Android implementations of a feature would have to wait for the desktop and for iOS to finish being completed before those features would be rolled out on Android. So Android users probably felt a bit of a lag whenever a new feature was announced. And also the users will also get a more unified experience so that the layout, the styling, and the experience will be much more consistent between iOS and Android. So that is all well, and those are very fair points to make. And yes, I think I have many feelings on this, and I actually talked to a couple of my friends who actually use React Native and native Android kind of at their workplaces. So my reaction a lot of this is to the idea that switching to React Native is giving you feature parity. So yes. But I am a little bit grumpy about this because a lot of times when it comes to feature parity between iOS and Android or web and Android and iOS, in my experience, now to be fair, I have not worked with React Native, neither have I worked on any products that have any React Native. But generally speaking, when there's feature parity, the differences between two platforms, it's an organizational team structure issue and resourcing thing. It really doesn't have to do as much with technology. And while it is fair to say that, well, if you already have one app using React Native, switching the other will give you some code sharing. And that's kind of what, the reasoning behind a lot of this is that the same team will be able to write a lot of the feature code using React Native and not have to write two different code bases and maintain different code bases and have a more consolidated, consistent launch procedure. And that is all very well and true, but I do think it's worth noting that a lot of times feature parity comes down to design management, resourcing, and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there because I have to admit I had a bad reaction. And actually, I told my husband about this headline. He was like, he also had his own like React Native rant, and I talked to a couple other friends that actually do work with React Native. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I know Ron, you had some thoughts.
Yeah,
too.
well, I can't speak from the developer perspective, but I can speak from the product manager and CEO perspective. But the Scorbit pinball app is built on React Native. And it's built on React Native purely so that we have feature parity across iOS and Android, and we're not managing separate code bases, and we're able to launch on both platforms. Which Jason, you know and remember, is a many year pet peeve of me. Of when a startup or a cool app comes out, like what was the Clubhouse, was that the social talking that like available only on iOS? Like, come on, do it on Android too, or even when people do an Android version and no iOS version. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so like one of the things I pushed for when we were working on Scorbit was that we would launch on both platforms at the same time and maintain, common feature set. And the way to do that was React Native. So, and to your point now, that said, if you ask me what our biggest, not strong suit, what's the opposite of strong suit? Our biggest drawback with our app is design. Right. It's like, like we have basically, which is a prototype design that we Frankensteined into working through the app because we focused our money and our resources into hardware and cloud services and not on front end design. And so if we really wanted to add bells and whistles or uniqueness or stuff like that, then understanding we would hit a limitation of what React Native could do because you're doing it on both platforms. But for right now, from a business case, React Native was the best solution for us.
And I think that's totally valid. So just to be clear, I'm a native Android dev, and my preference as a person is just for that. I like to do that. But React Native and Flutter are all valid solutions. And there are cases where it makes much more sense, like as you said, Ron, for you to get a good working app on both platforms at once with, if you're not like a FANG company with like teams of like dozens of developers, it makes a lot of sense, and they're totally valid. And I've heard a lot of people have a lot of fun with both. And in fact, in terms of the technology, I talk about Jetpack Compose all the time. A lot of the principles are still React and Redux, all these things. We're all just borrowing from each other. I will say that kind of to what you were alluding to in terms of like platform specific things, I did ask a very good friend of mine who does work on an app that has both React Native and Android, her thoughts on it. And basically said, to be fair, React Native can really help you. And it can, in many cases, it can help both speed up feature release and speed up, feature parity and make it easier to have feature parity. She did kind of echo what my suspicions were, is that, it might depend on the company and the app, that there might be organizational issues in terms of feature parity. But she also wanted to be more specific in that there's a lot of times for them as they're working with it, they have to branch the code where they're actually now working again in native code, either because they want to support a specific thing. And she gave the example of iOS Force Touch, which is, very specifically just iOS. And for example, say foldables on Android, iOS doesn't have foldables. So if you wanted to do a feature that was able to take advantage of, very specific hardware or hardware features like that, or even specific platform features, you have to branch the code. So it's going to be some shared code, but still there's going to be some native expertise required. So it really depends. She says that she thinks it's totally fair. Like if you're writing a simple or straightforward app, or just an app that has a very consistent experience across two platforms, go wild. React Native makes a lot of work. But as your app gets increasingly complex, or as you want to do more things that are platform specific, it's not like React Native is going to be a magic bullet. There's a lot of factors, and it depends. Waffle. It depends. So, I just think it's interesting to talk about the nuances and why it definitely, for me, it makes sense for Discord to do this. So no hate there, but I do think it's a really interesting discussion on, maybe like when you're an Android faithful and you hear like these different things or these different companies trying different strategies, it's not black and white. There's a lot of different issues there. And there's a kind of reasons why the whole right once run everywhere hasn't been like the thing that all of us are doing. And it's very nuanced. But if it works for you, it works for you. It was just very interesting, the reaction that I had and like my husband had and like other people that I asked about this had. So, but, I loved hearing like your perspective, Ron, too, kind of like as someone kind of on the opposite side of someone like me, often at a meeting, like what your thoughts are too. So
yeah, no, and that's the thing is that like I understand you go into it full, kind of aware as possible of it. Like there are aspects of each native platform, both Android and iOS, that you lose when using React Native. But again, like it goes back to the developing decision versus the business decision, right? And so and we were talking before the show, and I mentioned it and chatting with some of the folks in the chat room. We actually like a little behind the curtain, but like in like the real kind of developer startup-y kind of experience. Our development got decimated earlier this year because we were using developers and React Native developers in the Ukraine. And the war started, and they dropped off Slack, and haven't heard from three of the four. Luckily one of them got in touch and said he's safe in Moldova, but I know for a fact two of them were dropping their keyboards and going to get arms to go protect their country, and haven't heard back from them, right? And so now we're in a position where we've lost our development team, and we need to find new solutions to do that. And luckily, we've also lost several years of invested knowledge and know-how of our code base and things like that. But luckily, it's in React Native, so we don't need to go far to train someone up to what we've done, because it's already in a language that makes sense, and therefore it's not forked, and it's like all these other things. So like when we get back up to speed, it's going to hopefully be a little faster than it might be if we had separate unique code bases or done it a different thing. Like it's more of a commonality base, which as a small company works for us, right? But again, it's those trade-offs. So I do think it's interesting that Discord is going in this direction, though, to maintain that parity, because they are a company that if you're watching them, they are going through lots of rapid growth, and I don't want to say growing pains, but growing evolution, right? I mean, we use Discord for the Twit Club members. I use Discord at iFanboy. I'm in like a bunch of Discords myself and all that sort of stuff. And it's been interesting to see them wrestle with their identity and what are they. And part of that is maturing as a company and figure out what you do with your products, right?
Yeah.
So, So.
That's like another interesting point too, is that I'm always for what works for your business and your users. Number one, the technology is kind of just here or there. We all have our own preferences. I think that's interesting that one of the things they talked about was making the experience more consistent. And I think for me personally, and my husband and I had a little rant about this while like one of us was trying this morning. Like I think we, especially kind of being old school Android devs, we always feel like we always like experiences that are tailored to the platform. And I guess it kind of goes to the thing like the Force Touch, right? Like you have these features and these kind of paradigms and I guess paradigms for working within a certain platform. You kind of want that consistent between app to app. Like I want like, a gesture, like, I don't know, back navigation or something to work the same way across all my Android apps, because I live in Android every day. Whereas as a company, you want to make sure that your brand and your identity is consistent between all your different clients. So there's a little bit of tension there, I feel like, between trying to be like, I guess I always phrase it as being a good platform citizen. It's a little highfalutin, but, trying to be like consistent in the world that your user lives in terms of mobile space, but then also making sure that as a product and as a company, you have a consistent experience across all your clients, so that no one is maybe losing out, or that that you have like whatever delight or functionality or services that you provide your users are consistent across every single place that they can get it. And that's important too. So I just think it's an interesting tension as well. And so, I have my opinions, and I know, like, just to throw it in there anecdotally, I know some people are worried because the Android client that they're getting now written in React Native feels a little bit slow. And that's kind of a common thing that I've heard. I don't have any real knowledge about this. That sometimes, depending on, again, it depends on what your app is doing, what components it's using, it might be a little bit slower, and performance might be a little shaky, but we'll just wait and see. To be honest, it makes sense. If iOS is React Native, then I'm surprised that it took them this long to get to Android React Native as well. But I don't know. I don't have any other experience other than just speculating.
Yeah. Interesting
stuff. Yeah.
That was fascinating. I'm staying out of this. I love the point counterpoint. No. I think you guys covered both bases, and I just want to say, Ron, I hope your developers are okay.
I do too. Yeah, hope so. We hope, we keep reaching out. We're trying to figure out how we can support them, but hopefully they're all right. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, to shift gears a little bit, we've got a little bit of a new thing for you today. We're going to try this out for size for a little bit and see how it goes. But you remember J.R. Peale from Android Intelligence. He's been a guest in years past. I'd say and he's been an awesome guest when he's been able to come on. And then, he's had a family in the past number of years. And so that's made this particular time more difficult. But he reached out and he was like, hey, I love all about Android. Would love to be involved, but I can't really do the live show. What if I send you some tips, some Android tips, and we can play those? And I'm like, heck yeah. And you guys were on board as well. So this week we're starting kind of the first in, I imagine, a number of weeks here. We'll just kind of go forward and see how this goes. This is JR's Android Intelligence app tip. Go ahead and play it, Burke.
Hey gang, it is simply sublime to be back here in the AAA playground. I've missed y'all. I swear I'm not just saying that either. All right, enough chicanery for now. I've got a couple of really cool tips to share with you today. They revolve around everyone's favorite essential time waster, the YouTube app on Android. Let me grab my trusty Pixel 6 here for our demo purposes. I've got pulled up All About Android episode number 1. From way back in 2011. There's a babyface Jason, a babyface Ron will be coming up in just a moment as well. If my highly scientific estimations are correct, I believe they were both approximately 12 years old in this video, or something like that. It certainly looks and feels that way anyway. All right, so my favorite hidden YouTube shortcut. When you're watching a video, be it this one or any other lovely clip you've got pulled up, you want to skip forward or backwards just a little bit within that video. Remember this, you can double tap your finger on the left side of the screen or the right side of the actual video box while it's playing. 2 taps on the left will take you back 10 seconds. 2 taps on the right will take you forward 10. So we'll just go tap, tap on the left, back 10. Easy as that. Tap, tap on the right, forward 10. Who knew? It gets even better too, because if you want to skip more than that amount, you can double tap on whichever side you want and then keep tapping. Every extra time you tap will add another extra 10 seconds onto your fast skip total. If for whatever reason 10 seconds just isn't cutting it for you as that interval, you can actually customize that skip time too. Just tap your profile picture in the YouTube Android app's upper right corner, select Settings followed by General, and then look for the double tap to seek option there. It'll let you change it to 15, 20, 30, or 60 seconds. You can even take it all the way down to 5 if you're just feeling really, really wild. Whatever works. Hey, it is so great to be back here and hanging with the coolest crew in the land of Android again. If you want more time-saving Android tips like these in your life, by the way, you can come check out my Android Intelligence newsletter. You'll get 3 new things to try every single Friday in your inbox and 3 bonus tips on your favorite subject as soon as you sign up. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit. That's androidintel.net/twit. I'll see you there, and I will see you right back here for even more googly Android goodness before long.
Thank you, JR. I love it.
I gotta say for 2 things. One, I've missed JR so much. And I'm so glad that he's contributing in this way. That's fantastic. And second, this is already my new favorite segment of the show because I did not know about that shortcut.
You didn't know about that?
I didn't know about that.
I discovered that maybe a year ago, and I use it all the time. I love it.
That is such a great
shortcut.
I use it all the time, but I didn't know you could adjust the amount of time that you skip. So usually what I do is because it's like, what did you 10 seconds? So I'm kind of just like this sometimes, just like, so now I can actually adjust. I love that. I did not know that part about it. So I'm going to go in and just play around with it. That's awesome.
I got to say, talk about not only a great tip for you, the Android audience, the All About Android audience, learn something new, whatever, but like, I didn't know about that. You guys didn't know about the skip time was adjustable. Like, we're all learning together thanks to our good friend JR. So like, that's fantastic.
There we go.
So like, yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
thank you, JR. Thank you. And we'll look forward to next week because I think we're going to keep getting these. So
that's
let us know what you think. Yeah, let us know what you think. AAA@twit.tv. All right. And speaking of that email address that I just read to you, up next, it's time for email.
Yeah. So
actually more than email, right, Ron?
More than an email, more than a feeling, everybody. We love it when you not only send in voicemail or like I feel like last time Flo was on, we talked about it'd been a while since we've gotten a video mail, and here we are with our first voicemail video mail. All about Android community note from Adam in San Diego talking about Gboard emojis. So take it away, Adam.
Hey AAA crew, this is Adam from San Diego, and I have a question for you all. Hopefully you can help me. My question is about Gboard, which about 95% of the time I love, and 5% of the time I hate, because it keeps auto-inserting emojis as I'm typing, and it does it randomly, and I can't get it to stop, and I can't find a setting that specifically turns this off. So that's what I'm looking for, and I have on my screen here an example where if I type a message, sometimes it's not this egregious, but this is a good example where it will insert it. It often inserts the little I for information, the word information. And then if I talk about a particular sport, earlier today I was searching for a place called the Hamburger Hut, and I put it into Yelp, and I typed hamburger, and it just inserted the emoji into the search bar into Yelp. Like, it's just driving me crazy that it keeps doing this, and I can't get it to stop. So I went into the settings before I continue here, that I'll tell you that I did look, and I see in the settings for Gboard that it actually shows that there are suggestions while typing for the emojis, because there's an emoji setting in the keyboard. However, this is only for showing content on the suggestions strip above the keyboard, which I actually like. And so, for example, when I'm typing and I say hello, it might give like a little hand wave suggestion for an emoji. So that's cool. I don't mind that. And if I turn that setting off, then I don't get any emoji suggestions above the keyboard, and I actually kind of like that feature. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out, where is there a setting for auto insert emoji while typing? It does not exist, and I don't know what to do about it, and I'm gonna stop using Gboard if I can't figure it out, because it's driving me crazy. So would appreciate the help. Thanks. Love the show.
So first off, I love the format that you sent that in, Adam in San Diego. That's brilliant. Sending us a video with showing us your screen. And I don't know if you saw it, for our video viewers, there was a little circle where we could see Adam talking to us, which is awesome. That was fantastic. Audio listeners, viewers, listeners, it's still up for debate, but audio listeners, you're able to hear Adam. That was great. That was fantastic. And while I was watching to that, I was like, oh, he's talking about the predictive emoji in the suggestions, but he's not. It's forcing emojis to show up in his text, which I have never seen before. And
I've never seen that either.
And while he was doing it, I was trying it on my phone, and it wasn't happening for me. And so, but it's clearly happening to him. So why?
I guess what I'm wondering is, does it have to do with the app that he's using? Not necessarily Gboard, that Gboard is doing this, but I found some like Reddit forum or Reddit threads that alluded to this actually being like, if you're using, Gboard is your keyboard, but if you're in the in like the Facebook Messenger app and you're typing, Messenger might be doing it. So you might be looking at the settings in the wrong place. What do you got, Ron?
Well, so I quickly did a quick look for this because I could not replicate it, but I did find, and Burke, I threw the link in the doc if you want to pull it up for our video viewers, an article on Android Central from March of 2022, so a couple of months ago. And the headline of the article is, Gboard will magically turn your text into emoji with a tap of a wand. And it says that Google's rolling out a new update to Gboard, and that will display a wand that can automatically insert a series of emoji into your text. And so it says the feature apparently works in two ways: can insert emoji after text or between words. And it says the feature doesn't appear to be widely available yet. So I'm wondering if he has a version of Gboard, like an A/B test version of Gboard that we don't have, and has accidentally enabled this insert emoji into your text, because this example is exactly what he's talking about. And actually, can we pull up his video? Because I'm wondering. Burke, can we see his video again? I'm sorry. Because I'm wondering if that wand is present in his Gboard and we just didn't notice it. We're making Burke work tonight.
But
yeah, can you?
Would
he
that
doesn't
feature also?
He does. He's not showing us his keyboard and where it's. He's not like we can't see underneath the text here in his video, unfortunately.
I see. I see.
So Adam in San Diego, we need to see your full keyboard to see if there's on my keyboard, there's right there. So,
there we go. There we go.
So according to this article, where that microphone is, there's can be or potentially be a wand that magically inserts emoji into your text. So be on the lookout for that maybe. Yeah. So,
if this was work, I'd be like, can you let us know what device you're on, what version of Android you're running, and what version of Gboard you're on? So please send us a bug report, and maybe we can look into it a little further. Also, not related to this at all, it looks like Adam is using Loom, which is really cool because it lets you do like screen captures. Cool. And I love Loom. I was like, oh, it looks like a Loom. Anyway, sorry, I've enjoyed Loom. That's nothing to do with this. But yes, please feel free to send us a full bug report with the above information.
Is he signed up for I wonder if he signed up for the beta. Because there is a beta of Gboard that I'm not in it.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that could be too. I wonder. Yeah, and I also wonder if this is a relatively recent thing or if it's been doing this for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my searching around seems to show me that anybody who complains about this also, there's never an answer that's like, oh yeah, that's in Gboard settings. It's right here, and you just deactivate that and it goes away. Otherwise, he probably would have found it too. I'm sure, Adam, you're quite resourceful as well in your Google foo. So I don't know that this is necessarily a Gboard feature unless you are in the beta and unless you have a version of the beta that some of us do not have that's doing this automatically as like a test. That could be too. It's really hard to know, but I'd be surprised if it's a Gboard feature. Maybe it's something else. Yeah.
You think it's an individual app feature?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know what apps this is happening in. Is this happening all the time? Like when you're using Gboard to write out an email and you say happy, does it suddenly change happy to a happy face? I've never seen that happen in Gmail, right? But if it's happening there, then maybe that is a Gboard feature. If it's happening just in Messenger, then it's probably a Messenger feature. So, check the settings there of the app that you see it happening in. Maybe you'll find some gold there at the end of that rainbow.
And report back to us. We want to know what you find because it's something is around there. So
something is amiss.
Yeah.
Strange things are happening at the Circle K. All right, Juan writes in to say, once again, it's Juan from Colombia sharing my latest Xiaomi acquisition. I was looking for a good phone, but found most brands this year are pushing MediaTek processors instead of Snapdragon in the mid-range. Personally, not a fan of MediaTek. Compared to my current phone, the Poco X3 Pro versus the X4 Pro, the F4, etc., but found most changes were made in a better camera and AMOLED screens. Funny enough, my X3 Pro still beats some of the newer MediaTek-powered devices and benchmarks. Until I came across a great deal on the Poco F3. It has a 6.67-inch AMOLED screen, Snapdragon 870 processor, 5G, premium design, and a better camera than my predecessor. No Courage port, but barely used it on my last phone anyway. Only downside I've seen is the screen seems to display images oddly at very low brightness. It also does come with dual speakers, Dolby Atmos, Android 12, 33-watt charger included, and a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter adapter. That sounds like a pretty nice device. Juan says, just wanted to share if anyone is out looking for a mid-ranger, this year-old phone beats some of the latest offerings for a lower price. That is the Poco F3. So thank you for sending in your mini review of the Poco F3. We've not had this device on the show as far as I know. If we were to have, it probably would have been brought care of Mateo, and we haven't had Mateo on in a while, so got to reach out to Mateo to bring him back and see what kind of phones he has hidden up his crocodile sleeves. So, but there you go. I love it when y'all send in. Oh, and I don't want to miss this. He says, P.S. I always imagine Burke this way, and then he attached a picture. This way when the email of the week section is coming up. And then there's a link to a picture. And Burke, I don't know if you have it queued up, but you go ahead and show that. It made me laugh. And maybe it'll make you laugh, Burke. But nothing makes you laugh. I'm just vamping until you get the picture up. But hopefully it works for you. Hopefully that link works for you. And then there it is. So the top image is a hand with two buttons, and one of the buttons, hold on, I have to grow my my player here. One of the buttons says email OTW. And the other button says it's time for the news. And then it shows a picture of a superhero sweating, wiping sweat off his brow with a worried look. And it says Burke. Burke doesn't know which button to press. Is it the email of the week or is it the news bumper? I don't know. See? Burke really doesn't know which button to press. Sometimes he just presses them all.
It's pretty good.
Love it. So thank you for sending that.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. That made me laugh. Thank you for emailing in, Juan. And then, Win, you've got the honors this week.
Well, hopefully Burke is all warmed up for the email of the week. And the email of the week is from Stephen Castell, and he writes to us saying, I think Android tablets have expanded in definition. They aren't selling because a broader type of device is taking its place. My carry device of choice, virtually always in my car and on my desk, is a Lenovo Duet. I used to carry a tablet to read and watch videos and a PC for work. I now carry just the Duet. The long battery life and USB-C charging lets me leave chargers home. It works larger than its size because the interface and surface encourage use of the touchscreen in a way that touchscreen Windows laptops don't. The instant on, quick setup, and the decent keyboard and touchpad make it a few inches short of a perfect laptop replacement, but more than a reasonable compromise in the field. With tremendous connectivity, both available free and from my phone, what I can do connected versus unconnected is only an issue on a plane, and I can always take my laptop if needed. I think Chromebooks and devices like the Duets are often stealing Android tablet sales numbers. Windows or Apple don't have a comparable mini device good for both tablet and PC type needs. Stephen Castell. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So, yeah, what do y'all think? I mean, and we can take a look at the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 3, a review from reviewgeek.com saying it is a very affordable and versatile option. And I think actually it's a very decent point. I think it is weird that I think especially since Google has now defined it as large screens, what the hell does that mean? And what does that help? What does that mean for both developers and consumers? And I think it's a very valid point. I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these larger screen form factors with Chrome OS running are probably selling. I mean, I don't know if they're selling better or worse than Android tablets. I just know that I don't hear a lot about Android tablet releases as much as I do about Chromebook releases, and especially these series, right? Like the Duet series. This is not the one that we were just talking about. The Duet 3 obviously has been around a while. The Duet is a series of Chromebooks that's done really well. The kind of 3-in-1 form factor. You see a lot of different manufacturers doing that with Chromebooks, and then tablets. Like, yes, they happen, but I don't know that they're happening to the same degree that some of these kind of more touch interface focused kind of 3-in-1 devices are right now. Just a guess, but I think Steve could be onto something.
I will say that ever since I discovered the Duet while searching for my latest tablet, I've continued to be perplexed by it, and the price is so right for it. Like the low price of these devices I don't know how they do it, but it just seems so interesting in that regard that I the next one I get probably will be one of these because I just want to try it out and see what it is. That said, I will mention, I forgot, and this reminded me, and is little to nothing to do with Steve's email of the week, but thank you, Burke. Anybody who watches Only Murders in the Building on Hulu might have noticed recently Tina Fey's characters in it was holding a Surface Duo, not Surface Duo, whatever. What is the Microsoft? What is it called?
Surface.
Is it the Surface Duo? Yeah, the Surface Duo 2. Yeah, like that was her character's phone. Is that Microsoft Surface Duo 2? And I was just like, hey,
wow,
there's something in the wild.
Things like that on Hulu. It's weird, like only on Hulu.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Microsoft has the Hulu shows.
They might. I mean, because I know that they have a deal with ABC in general, because that's why if you watch Grey's Anatomy, they're all using Surface tablets. Yeah,
it seems too coincidental.
Yeah.
So
right on. Cool. Well, thank you, Stephen, for being the email of the week. Or you say it.
Oh,
'Cause it's your
okay.
email.
Thank you, Stephen, for being the email of the week.
Sorry, I stole your thunder. I didn't mean to do that.
No.
I didn't mean to do that. But as a result, Stephen, you got 2 times the serenade. So there you go. 3 times the serenade. All right. And with that last serenade, we have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. And what an episode. One for the ages, ladies and gentlemen. Win, always a pleasure getting the chance to do a show with you each and every week. Tell people what you want them to know about what's going on in your life.
Okay, well, I'll share some breaking news. It's not really breaking news, but
Could be.
no,
Could be breaking news.
breaking
I
news
know.
for y'all.
Okay, there we go.
'Cause
Yeah.
This is actually the first
It
time I'm
is,
sharing
because
this-
Burke
this-
said it's breaking news.
It
so there we
is.
go.
If the bumper's there, it's true. So I haven't really publicly announced where I'm going to start working next week, but I have accepted a job at Adobe, and I'm going to be working on a next generation mobile video editor. Basically
That's
a
so
greenfield
cool.
project. Yeah. And I'm going to be gone next week because my new team is having an onsite. But that actually, Android Faithful, you're the first folks that I'm publicly announcing to that's my new gig, and I'm starting next week. And so I will be gone, but I'll be back very soon. And I hope that I'll have cool stuff to show you all and talk about at some point soon. But yeah, it's a really good job. It's kind of blending all my things because I love video and I love Android, and this seems like a really good project for me. And I kind of have always had a soft spot for Adobe. I used to work in the Adobe tech stack, so it feels like a coming home. But yeah, I will miss you all next week, but I'll be back later, hopefully with more stories from Adobe at some point. And other than that, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Code Monkey, and my website is randomlytyping.com.
All right.
Right on.
Well,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would like to use my plug time to congratulate you, because that is awesome, and I'm very excited for you in your new job. So there it goes.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Ron.
And you can go follow me on Twitter and Instagram, RonXO. So
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Well, congratulations, Win. Thank you, Ron. And thank you to Burke at the studio, pushing buttons, sometimes saying a good news bumper, sometimes saying a not as good, but we'll let it slide this time.
Fair
also,
enough.
big thanks to Victor behind the scenes for editing the show, turning it around, and placing it into your ears through the podcatcher that you choose. You can find me at Jason Howell on Twitter. You can also find me doing other shows on the Twit Network, including Tech News Weekly. This Thursday, I'll be doing that with Micah Sargent, twit.tv/TNW. And of course, don't forget, we have Club Twit here. If you like to get your podcasts with no ads in them, you can certainly do that. Club Twit is our ad-free subscription tier. All of our shows, no ads, exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content, new shows that are just in the club. Hands on Windows is one of those, by the way. You can get it just through the club. And a members only Discord, $7 a month, or you can pay for a full year, $84 per year. As for this show, we do it every Tuesday evening, twit.tv/AAA to subscribe to All About Android. Then you don't have to think about it. Once it's published, once Victor has done all of his hard work behind the scenes, it pushes out to you like magic. And the next morning on your commute, there we are, and you get to listen to us. And thank you for doing that. Thank you so much for watching and listening each and every week. We couldn't do it without you, and we will see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hey, we should talk Linux. It's the operating system that runs the internet, a bunch of game consoles, cell phones, and maybe even the machine on your desk. But you already knew all that. What you may not know is that Twit now has a show dedicated to it, the Untitled Linux Show. Whether you're a Linux pro, a burgeoning sysadmin, or just curious what the big deal is, you should join us on the Club Twit Discord every Saturday afternoon for news, analysis, and tips to sharpen your Linux skills. And then make sure you subscribe to the Club Twit exclusive Untitled Linux Show. Wait, you're not a Club Twit member yet? Well, go to twit.tv/clubtwit and sign up. Hope to see you there.